Hey, this is Mr. Snow. If you like what you're about to see, please hit the like button, subscribe, share, and comment in the section below. With that said, on with the video. Let's get this out of the way. I have no hatred towards transgender people. Them being transgender doesn't interfere with my day in any significant way. My problem is with the pro-trans arguments. I feel they're incredibly flawed and I vehemently disagree with them. My intention is to not come off as discriminatory towards trans individuals. The focus of this video is on the rhetoric, not the person. We clear? First thing I want to ask my viewers is, do you know what a delusion is? A delusion is a false belief held by an individual that is contradicted by reality. If I were to tell you that someone is stalking me even though all evidence proves to the opposite, that would be a delusion of persecution. If I were to tell you I was dead, that I was a walking corpse even though my vitals proved otherwise, that would be Cotard delusion. If I were to tell you I'm a horse, not as a metaphor but with the belief that I am a quadrupedal beast of burden, that would be another delusion. If I tell you I am a woman, even though I bear no female sex organs and have a penis between my legs, see where I'm going with this? Delusions are not good, folks. False perceptions of reality don't allow you to participate or function in society properly. They can skew thinking into unhealthy venues and promote unhealthy coping with life's various stresses. The number one thing a psychiatrist is going to do with a delusional patient is correct the delusion and reorient the client to reality so they can interact in healthy ways with society. When I ask my professors who work with transgender individuals why this same treatment is not applied to them, the answers vary wildly, ranging from adamant denial gender dysphoria counts as a delusion to contradicted statistics claiming it is indeed the best treatment. Look, I'm no psychiatrist, but when I'm told what I'm learning in school is wrong by the very people teaching it to me without a consistent explanation why, I'm left more than a little confused. At the core of the transgender debate lies sex and gender being different and social constructs. Looking at the history of the word gender, I found something completely different. Gender comes from the old French word gender, with an R-E, derived from Latin, which means a kind of things or persons sharing certain traits. For example, males in the human species all have penis and testicles as external reproductive organs. It was applied to be specifically male or female back in the 15th century, and in the 20th century, gender replaced sex as the go-to classification for male or female because apparently people were too delicate to hear the S word. The notion of sex and gender being separate and the origin of the modern transgender research comes largely from a man named John Money. John Money started out working with intersex patients until a botched circumcision brought David Reimer to his doorstep. John Money said David would live better as a girl and could be taught to do so, as his theory was gender is purely a social construct. How would John Money guide David into becoming a girl? By having him and his brother act in sexual manners. This fucker seriously had David's brother mount him and begin thrusting. Money also had them remove their clothing and inspect each other's genitals while he took pictures. What does that sound like? In the end, David got surgery back into a male and ended up committing suicide a year after his brother did, both brothers living their lives with severe mental illness. So if anything, I'd argue this study makes a case for gender being biological, as the infant raised as a female ended up going back to male. So the whole crux of the transgender argument, the guiding light for which they base their claims, is sourced in a pedophile. And not the Milo kind where he thinks the age of consent is just a tad lower than America would like it to be. Oh, Money also claimed heterosexuality itself is purely social, because we weren't fucking to continue the species for a million years or anything. From John Money's case study, we come into the more modern debates where everything is claimed to be solely subjective, and if you feel it, it exists. Again, I'd like to bring up the example of Cotards I referenced earlier. These patients truly feel like they are dead, that the nurse is lying to them, and that their heartbeats are a trick. Do we have dead rights activists? No. Their feeling is directly contradicted by mountains of evidence. But even as I say that, I will admit I can understand the train of thought concerning transgenders and the subjective gender spectrum. When you take the objectivity out and replace science with subjectivity, then anything can happen. You put the two distinct genders on opposite ends of a spectrum, total male and total female. In between you have anything you can think of. Maybe you're 25% male, that would be one gender. Maybe you're 67% female, and that would be another gender. And this goes on and on with any combination one can think of. I don't agree with it, but I think I get it. Hell, I can even be sold on it if it wasn't based entirely on a person's feelings. The obvious problem I have is how it ignores hard biology and makes the assertion everything we do is purely motivated by society, which is not true. For example, women are much often better with children and caregiving due to the feel-good hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin releases in the female brain when they give birth, when they interact with cute objects like children, when they bond with others in social situations, and so on. The theory is oxytocin is so amped up in the female brain so they won't reject their offspring and will go to great lengths to support them. In my opinion, to make the assertion gender is on a spectrum, you have to determine how much of gender is built on biology and how much is built on social learning. I think there's a balance between nature and nurture, but the loudest and most obnoxious pro-trans debaters refuse to acknowledge any nature and believe with religious like zealotry, everything is because of society. Fourth issue I have with the transgender debate is the treatment of sex reassignment surgery being the best cure and should be covered by taxpayer health care. Post-sex reassignment, the trans individual still has the same, if not higher, rates of suicide and other serious mental health issues. People arguing against me default to society's treatment of them and how they're persecuted, but I disagree. Gender dysphoria is comorbid with several impulse anxiety and depressive disorders. These comorbid disorders don't disappear as soon as surgery is finished. Johns Hopkins University, the hospital that pioneered sex reassignment surgery, won't do it anymore because the patients aren't any better off. I would argue for treating the other issues first, but like clockwork, my detractors in class call me the usual names and say people like me are the reason the transgender is depressed and anxious solely because I won't call him a her or her a him. The biggest problem I have with the pro-trans debate is how it's being argued. Hashtag not all, but it's predominantly shown to be argued with sycophantic faith-based fervor rather than calm, collected rationale. And I'm well aware this is a sin on both sides, but it ain't the gender spectrum skeptics getting cringe compilations made of them on YouTube. Ditch the celebrity endorsements and get me an analysis from a scientist who didn't vote in 2016, and you'll have myself and many others more open to listening to your claims. So let me recap my nigh unintelligible rant on why I don't respect the transgender argument. We can call delusion on every other mental illness that fits, but not transgenders no matter how perfect it matches. The basis for transgender study was conducted by a pedophile whose famous case study killed himself. Claiming everything is subjective feeling ignores objective biology. Gender dysphoria patients are statistically no better off post-surgery having the same mental illnesses and suicidal risk they had before surgery, thus suggesting surgery is ineffective treatment. And the trans activists are trying to peddle ideology more than science. Now this is just my opinion and you're free to disagree. Hell, make a video ripping my arguments to shreds. Tell me where I'm wrong in great detail and explain some of the things I admitted to being confused on. And for everyone that agrees with me, please don't take this as gospel. I'm just a guy 3 classes out of a degree. I haven't led any research or studies into this. In fact, the study I'm working on is looking at the relation between personality and success in esports. So not even remotely in the same ballpark. Anyway, I think I'm done with this video. Thanks for taking the time to watch.